Welcome to the festivities. Deja vu all over again, right? Same locale, many of the same faces from 2009 here tonight. But before we get on with the program tonight, we have a very special acknowledgement and presentation to make. There was a lot of emotion at the dedication of the new house today. And it occurred to me and a number of others that many times it's no one's fault, but many times when we look back on this history that we have created, that certain people are not so much forgotten, but maybe overlooked. And we're going to rectify that this evening. And I want two people in the audience, when I beckon you, please come up. And this one individual had a very, very special position in the early days of the Black Studies program. This woman made sure to keep us on the straight and narrow. She also made sure that we were what we used to call core correct in the courses that we were supposed to be taking toward a degree. And it impacted a great deal of us. And probably unbeknownst to her, was the subject of being talked about real often. Also, the other individual that I want to give some recognition to tonight is a person, for a personal note for me, is one of the reasons, outside of Ulysses coming to our high school to recruit Carl, Apollos, and myself that fateful time in 1970, this individual was the person that erased all my doubts. Am I ready for college? Do I have the right stuff? Do I have what it takes? And it was through her correspondence, it was through her enthusiasm, and it erased all my doubts even before we got those letters, guys, that said, we are happy to inform you, you have been selected and admitted to the University of Montana. So with any other further ado, some recognition and please, a great round of applause for these two women. Judy McBride, Leela Crawford, please come up.
I thought I had had plenty of recognition. I don't know how many recognitions a person needs.
Well, thank you so much.
I was telling Dee and Esther that the very first group of people that came, I even kept their money and only gave it to them every couple of weeks because I was afraid they would spend it. And remember, Francis? I was so afraid that something awful was going to happen. So it's nice to have the details recognized, because I was pretty hard on people as far as, you haven't taken, you need to take, this is what are we going to do. So anyway, thank you, but I have been recognized beyond measure, and I certainly did not feel overlooked. Thank you so much. This is just grand. Thank you very much.
Everybody hear me okay back there? Yes, sir. I always ask that question because it's so quiet.
We don't want you to raise your voice.
So, once again, let me take this opportunity to thank everybody for being here. I mean, it's been to this point, when we just started, but it's been a wonderful, wonderful reunion to this point. Many of you who were at the dedication saw me get a little bit emotional, and as I said, I typically don't. Be quiet, Mace. I typically don't do that, but it's been it's just been incredible to see some of the faces here, some folks that I necessarily didn't go to school with, but had heard about them, had heard stories and everything, Mace. And it was just, it was a wonderful thing, just a wonderful thing. And I continue to thank each and every one of you for your presence here tonight. It's again, it's heartfelt for me. Dr. Price, George, you want to stand up for a second? You're going to be up here in just a little bit. Anyway, this is Dr. George Price. He's a professor in the African American Studies Department. And George and I were talking one day about scholarships, and we discovered, much like Columbus discovered America, there's already people already here. But we discovered that there was another scholarship that was out there, and we had talked about that scholarship, and it was the Nasby and Evelyn Reinhardt Scholarship. And I think a lot of you know who Nasby Reinhardt was, and his wife Evelyn or Cookie, but some of you perhaps don't. I want to read a couple things to you here, just because I think, again, I'm pretty much emotionally spent from this afternoon. That took quite a bit, and I want to again thank everyone for those things. Apollos and everyone, I want to thank you for that. But I'm going to have to read just a little bit here. So it's never an easy task when you're asked to speak about someone who meant so much to you. You search your mind and recall a number of stories and anecdotes and encounters that led this person to become a significant figure in your life. And there's not anyone more true than with Nasby Reinhardt. Nasby, Nays, or Doc, as he was affectionately known, holds a special place in my heart. I was a gangly, tall, lanky, wet behind the ears freshman in 1974 when I first met Nays. I came out here to play football. And I had heard about him on my visit out here. And a lot of the guys, both black and white at the time, had such great reverence for him. As you know, that many of you who are athletes know that a lot of times on visits you don't meet everybody. And I didn't meet Nays at that time. I came from Cincinnati, Ohio. And I grew up in a predominantly African-American household. I was a high school athlete with a number of scholarship offers, and as luck would have it, I came to the University of Montana. Apollos touched on this a little bit earlier, that my dad, in his infinite wisdom, I had offers from all sorts of different places, but said, you're going to Montana. And at that time, I think a lot of you can relate to it, you didn't question your parents. I work in probation now, and a lot of times the kids come into my office and they're like, well, I'm not doing that, Mom. What do you mean by me doing that? I'm just looking, and I'm dumbfounded because I'm thinking, see, my head would have been over here. My legs would have been over here. It would have just been, it's just a different world in many respects. So I didn't question my father about those things, and I came here. The story that Apollos related a little bit earlier today is a true story. I would call home and tell my mother, like, I want out of here. I want out of this place. I can't stand this. I want to get back. That was after about a week. And my mother would say, oh, I understand, sweetie, but you need to stay. You need to do these things. And my father would invariably walk by and he goes, is that Murray on the phone? And my mother would say yes, but tell him he's staying. So I appreciate that. And again, as Ulysses had touched on earlier today, this was a pretty turbulent time in our country. This was the late 60s and 70s when our nation was facing head-on some very stark realities related to race. Tensions remained high in our country, on campus, and in the Missoula community as well. Nasby's presence was grounding for me and other black students at the UM at that time. There were very few folks in a position of authority, particularly, I think it was probably Nays and Dr. Doss, who's going to be honored here in just a little bit, in the position of trust that looked like us. And sometimes that's lost on people. It's so nice to see someone in a position of authority that looks like you. it gives you the sense that, you know, he can do it or she can do it, I perhaps can do that too. That wasn't lost on me as it relates to Nays. But these things notwithstanding, I mean, we didn't get a pass. Nays still held us accountable for a number of things. He pushed us beyond our perceived boundaries athletically, academically, and socially. He didn't allow you to lament the many and varied realities of being of African descent in the world of civil rights struggles. I can recall instances where he revealed to us many of the indignities he endured as a black athlete, how folks would try to get under his skin with racial remarks and gestures, but his poise and his quiet dignity and his tenacious appetite for success and excellence on all different levels is what I remember most about him. There was no epithet, there was no evil eye, there was no gesture raised against him that he couldn't overcome. His athletic skill served to minimize that effect. His heart, his courage, and his dignity remains a very vivid memory for many in this room tonight. And his story stands as exemplified motivation and inspiration to those of you who didn't know him personally. This weekend is the Grizzly Hall of Fame induction, because that's the correct title, I think. And it just so happens that two of Nays' sons are here. They're at other events, but Nays' kids were gracious enough to write a letter specifically for this occasion. I'd like to read that to you now. It's entitled, Remembering Naysby and Evelyn Reinhardt. Nays, Doc, or Dad Reinhardt, was born May 6th. Oh my God, that's my birthday. Oh my God. It's another revelation. Wow. May 6, 1911, on a plantation in Georgia. I was born in Ohio. He and his parents, 2 brothers and 6 sisters, moved to Milwaukee when he was 4 years old. In high school, he was a standout athlete. Dad first heard about Missoula and its university in 1930 from Jim Dorsey, the son of a Buffalo soldier and black lawyer who graduated from the University of Montana with a law degree. Can you imagine that? Wow. Mr. Dorsey, aware of Dad's high school athletic and academic achievements, sent him to the university. During Dad's college years, he was an outstanding athlete and scholar. He was a Pacific Coast Conference precursor to today's Pac-10, or Pac-12 conference. Honorable mention football player and outstanding in basketball and track and field. During his college career, he won 9 varsity letters and was awarded the Grizzly Cup, given to the school's outstanding overall athlete. What Pete doesn't put in here is that Pete was awarded that too several years later. Right after graduating, Dad married Evelyn Coleman on April 27, 1934. Our mom was born to Harry and Mabel Coleman on November 21st, 1916 in Pocatello, Idaho. The second of Mabel's 2 children, Mom spent her early years in Pocatello. By 1938, a proud mother of 2 children and wanting to help support her growing family, decided to apply for a cook position at the local restaurant. Her cooking was so outstanding, along with an ability to interact positively with customers and staff, she eventually became the head chef for several of Missoula's prestigious dining establishments. Mom was affectionately referred to as Cookie. Dad, after graduating with a major in physical education, became the university's first athletic trainer, a position he held for 47 years. Not surprisingly, he was an outstanding athletic trainer. However, he's both known for enriching the lives of students, athletes, educators, and Montanans. Knowing what it felt like to be an outsider, he was able to counsel athletes in times of loneliness and uncertainty. And I can guarantee you that most of us that were on campus here, athletes notwithstanding, can relate to that. They came to him for more than just treatment of their physical aches and pains, but for moral support as well. We miss Dad's heartwarming smile and infectious demeanor, and our nurturing, devoted, witty mom. Signed Pete, 1959, Odie, 61, Sydney, 70, and Penny, 1975. The Naseby and Evelyn Reinhardt Scholarship presented tonight is a result of the generous contribution of the Reinhardt children. The scholarship is designated for members of the Black Student Union who have shown academic progress, have performed community service, and are U.S. citizens. The student must also demonstrate financial need. The award amount for the 2013-14 school year is $1,500. George and I worked on some of the criteria for the scholarship and also took a look at some of the essays that were rendered as well. At present, and here comes the hook. At present, the scholarship exists as a one-time gift, and as such, if we are to continue the course, is in need of financial renewal. In the ensuing months, we will call upon you once again to reflect on NAE's personal meaning to you, as well as the message of hope and dignity his life exemplified. We would much like for the Naseby and Evelyn Reinhardt Scholarship to reach endowment status so that future generations of BSU members have opportunity to share in his legacy and feel the effect of this wonderful man. At this time, I'm going to ask people to come up. Sarah and Jordan, would you guys come up for a second, please? On a more personal note, on an extremely personal note, it's kind of cool seeing George Price kind of squirm here. Because George, we're both on the Martin Luther King Holiday Committee here in town. And George, when George gets going, George is like he's on a Kaiser roll. He's just not on a regular roll. George can just go and go and go and go. And the last time we had the Martin Luther King and George was a guest speaker, I was in the back and I'm like, George. And he's like, well, Murray looks like he's trying to get me to slow it down a little bit. I'll just say one more thing here. And 20 minutes later, I'm like, well, looks like Murray's after me again. So, take that, George. Guys, I want to introduce a couple of people here. First to my right is Jordan Griffin. Jordan Griffin is the current president of the Black Student Union. Jordan is a senior in anthropology. She's originally from California, but grew up a significant part of her life in Montana as well. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't give Jordan just a chance to say just a couple things.
Hello again, everybody. I think when I first came to the university, I really did not expect the family and the support that I would receive from the Black Student Union. I didn't really realize that there was a Black Student Union and that I could really receive so much support. And for that, the first person I'd really like to thank for that is Murray, because in his own words, he said he encountered me as a scared little freshman. And that, I really think that in the last 4 years that I've been here, he's really helped me to develop and grow into a really strong person. So thank you for that, Murray, very much. And also, after this weekend, after I have had the chance to meet and speak with all of you, I would really like to thank all of you as well, because you've really provided a basis for what the BSU is today. And I must say, after our really amazing dedication today, I really have a deeper sense of pride in our house and pride in our BSU, and I really am inspired to, create something that could be a reflection of what the Black Studies program was in the past. And you guys have really inspired me and shown me through all of your stories and all of your generosity and friendliness and warmth that is possible. And I really wanted to thank you guys as well. So thank you very much. It was very nice to meet all of you.
I hate things like this. I just said D's like saying, be gracious, understand that people, whatever. Thank you, D. Okay. Now to the other business at hand. Tonight's recipient of the Naseby Evelyn Reinhardt Scholarship is Sarah Bills. Sarah is a senior major in media arts, minor in Irish and theater with an emphasis in costuming. Sarah is originally from Denver, Colorado, and is an active member of the Black Student Union. She is so active that it's hard to pin down what specific cabinet position she holds. Along with BSU President Jordan Griffin, Sarah has worked tirelessly on BSU-sponsored lectures, presentations, meetings, and community service projects. I want to read from you just a little bit in her scholarship essay, her Reinhardt Scholarship essay. Sarah writes, "My campus jobs include designing and marketing materials for the University Center, coordinating the arts fair, and sitting on the committee for the Day of Dialogue and Tunnel of Oppression, for which I was named Employee of the Year. With the Black Student Union, I organized and advertised a lecture in the fall, a film series in the spring, and created the BSU website as a final project for class. With work in school, it can be tight squeezing in community service, but I live with Emmaus Campus Ministries. My favorite project this semester was a service trip to San Francisco. There we not only served the homeless for a week, we became the homeless. We wandered the streets individually to experience the lives that we were trying to change. My next project is directing a documentary with the Missoula Interfaith Collaborative about the homeless residents of our city. These ambitions come from knowing that if I was on the outside of these remarkable things, I'd want to be in. We want you in too, Sarah. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in congratulating the first recipient of the Naseby and Evelyn Reinhardt Scholarship, Sarah Bills. So before you say a few words, I want to present you with this. With this, I can't even talk today. You guys have done this to me. This certificate of recognition is the first thing. There you go. And also, Diana and with the assistance of Mace, are providing you with a copy of the Constitution of the Black Student Union of the University of Montana, created October 13th, 1968.
Okay, so this is crazy. Yeah. Sorry. So over the last couple days, I've gotten to meet with you, and seeing this now, I've told you guys, I've seen a lot of your faces in the library when I go into the archives, and I'm like, I wonder what the BSU was like in its heyday. Oh, now it's mine. Anyways. I'd really like to thank the Reinhardts. That was a legacy, and to be part of it is amazing, and I kind of hope to leave a legacy with the BSU, with everything that I've done. We'll see if that happens or not, but because of this scholarship, Murray said that I'm minoring in Irish. I've been studying it since freshman year, and because of this scholarship, I get to study abroad in Ireland in January, so yes! Thank you very much. The BSU, I don't know, I guess I'll tell you the story of how I got into it. Scared freshman, there's a theme here. From Denver, big city, knew everybody, came here, didn't know anybody. I decided to go to a film because I love movies, and the film was Colored Girls, and I went by myself. I was sitting in a row that was all mine, and this girl came up to me and was like, "Have you heard of the Black Student Union?" I'm like, "Nope." And she's like, "You should join. We meet in the UC on Wednesdays, I think it was then." And since then, it's been a place where I've gone for support and friendship, and I've met my best friends there, and it's just great. And now we have a house. Yes! Yes, round of applause for the house. It's a good thing. Yeah, thank you guys. This is awesome. And I feel like Murray really built it up, and I just have nothing. So thank you.
So I was reminded here to remind you guys, I was gently reminded to remind you guys that we'd truly like to endow the Reinhardt Scholarship. That was a one-time gift from at his death from his family. And again, I know a lot of you in this room remember Nays and what he meant to you. I've had calls and emails from folks. I'm not going to pass the hat today. I'm not going to do that stuff. This is not a Baptist church or an AME church that I grew up in. But we'd like you to kind of think about that and whatever you can do to assist us, whether it's financial or if it's encouragement or if it's just some different ideas about how to develop that. I hate to stand up here and continually ask for money. And you guys have endowed the Dallas Scholarship, and you've been wonderful doing that. But I think that in light of how many great people that have come through these doors here, I think it would be really nice to take a look at Naseby and the effect that he had on a lot of our lives, and to be able to pass that down to future generations of people too. So, thank you for this evening. Thank you for this afternoon. Apollos, I'm going to get you back, I promise you. So I really thank you for everything here. Thanks.
Well, how ironic that Murray went so much longer than I planned to go. Well, thank you all for being here. It's sure good to see you again. Some of you I met at the first, the unofficial reunion, the 40th anniversary of the BSU, and then again at the reunion that followed the year after. I just had a few remarks. You know, we just started the semester and got 250 plus students, and at the same time we were harvesting on the farm. I do organic farming. I've been doing that since 1970. So, you know, I understand why in the old days you didn't start the school year till after harvest is over, you know. And they should bring that tradition back, I think. It's been kind of difficult, but very honored to be here with you all. And Murray, I don't have that much to say because I didn't have time to prepare too many remarks, but I did have a few things, okay? And first, thanks to Ulysses Stas, we're even doing this today, and that we had a African American Studies program to begin with, as they were saying this morning, third in the whole entire country, you know, in Montana. And that's what led me to do the 40th anniversary, to organize that back in 08. It was back in 2007, I found out that one of my former students had interviewed Ulysses Stas with one of her friends, and I read the little article they wrote, and I said, wow, 1968, that's got to be pretty close to the first AAS, or Black Studies, as they called it then, program in the nation. And so we did a little work, and then I went over and interviewed Ulysses and went through all the archives and all that. And long story short, you know, we had a very wonderful event that year, and I was glad to meet many of you for the first time there. In that era, and I'm a child of the 60s too, you know, grew up in California in the 60s, so there wasn't too many directions I could go besides radical, you know. And my dad grew up in Berkeley, so I'd go up to Berkeley every summer to visit the grandparents, and by the time I was about 13, I was doing a little detour on my own and hanging out with the hipsters down on Telegraph Avenue. I don't know if any of you know that town. But, and so one thing led to another, and eventually I came back from the utopian experiments and became a teacher. Shortest version of my autobiography ever heard. Okay. So this isn't about me. I was very privileged to meet and to learn, to meet Ulysses Doss and learn the history of this program. As Dr. Shearer, my colleague, Tobin was saying this morning, in a place where you would think that there shouldn't be a Black Studies program there, you know, and I think, you know, just the opposite. As in the days of the early Cultural Revolution, I call it, in the 60s, more than just a freedom struggle, you know, a beginning of a whole new paradigm. Not only in equality, but in the unity of humans and our planet and planetary wide and all that. And that this was not just African American histories and African American studies, but many in the old days, I remember even Black Panthers and our authors of Black Power, the independent freedom struggle, Kwame Ture, then Stokely Carmichael, and David Hamilton, and many others are saying, you know, this should be in the history books. It's not just our history. We claim it and build up our strength and our dignity through knowing our history and claiming the history that others failed to give us. You know, and I know growing up in the 50s and 60s, not a word in the curriculum. In one of the best school districts in the country, the LA Unified School District, they were getting awards and all that. And not a word about the groundbreaking people, even Frederick Douglass, you know. He wasn't in the curriculum back then, you know, and the people that made the United States. And so I tell all my students, and everybody should know, that this is American history. It's everybody's history. And African American Studies at the University of Montana has proven that. You know, in a school that's, who knows what the latest stat is, 96% Euro-American. You know, we have a very flourishing and healthy minor program. I should have asked you, Tobin, how many AAS minors we have now. You want to shout it out?
We've tripled the number since I came here. It had been 3, we're now up to about 13, and we're continuing to grow.
Yeah, and that's a minor, and eventually, you know, we hope to have the major, and who knows, maybe a grad program, a master's in AAS. And these are growing all over the country, in other states too, where you have a Euro-American majority or predominance. And it's grown from being a self-empowering or a race-empowering discipline, I guess you could say, to a true, widely admired and respected scholarly field of study, universally and beyond the United States. Scholars in African American studies now are recognized, appreciated, widely published, speaking all over the world, not just the U.S. So this is a remarkable thing that it is gradually, through the work of people like Ulysses Doss and all others who followed him, and one by one, university after university, starting the first African American Studies programs there, that it is becoming known as America's story, you know, and all the other marginalized and oppressed groups in our history. There's plenty of them, right? Including just the whole working class. You know, that's another issue. But so I like to say that to start off, and thank you, Ulysses Doss, for getting all of this started at the University of Montana. I appreciate, especially on your own initiative, putting the sign on your door, Director of Black Studies. as was the spirit of that age. You know, we weren't waiting for permission to change the world. All the young people, my cousin's husband, one of the Greensboro Four, Jabril Kazan, used to be Azelle Blair, one of the original four, 17 years old, with three 18-year-olds decided to do a sit-in at the Woolworth counter in his hometown, Greensboro, North Carolina. They weren't waiting for anybody's permission, you know. He did, out of respect to his dad, go ask for permission, or pretty much let him know what they were going to do and ask for his blessing, but they were going to do it. That spirit was brought here through Ulysses Doss and carried on through all of you. I sometimes wish I could have been there with you. I was doing other things, but it's been nice hearing your stories and all that. I'm going to talk now about our recipient of the first Doss Scholarship, Ulysses Doss Scholarship in African American Studies, designated for outstanding minors in the field of African American Studies. I had the good fortune of having Hillary Grabowska in my, African American History to 1865, the first half of the two-part unit that we do a year ago, last fall. And I wanted to read a little something. As I was preparing my remarks, I was looking through my files, and I save old students' writings, you know, some of the best writings, and I saved a couple of hers, but I'm not going to read from your research paper, don't worry. I found something else that was very interesting, just kind of caught my eye as I was going through the folder. Every semester with every class, in the first week of class, usually within the first couple of days, I send out a survey that I call the pre-course survey to kind of get to know the students, and they write down their major, and I have 2 questions on there, well actually 3. First question, have you had mostly positive or negative experiences with history classes? Please give a brief example or 2. And Hillary answered, I've had mostly positive experiences. I love history, and I can't think of a history class I didn't enjoy. But that's not the main one. The next question. What would you really like to know the most about African American history? He says everything. However, I find the Jazz Age and Civil Rights era most fascinating. Well, this is, of course, up to 1865, so we weren't going to cover that. But then she said, and this was what really blew me away, she said, at the same time, my summer job focuses on the Civil War, and I do want to expand my knowledge, especially since this year marks the 150th anniversary of the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. Now, most of my students coming in barely know what the Emancipation Proclamation is. They're usually under the common delusion in the U.S. that it set the slaves free. Well, it didn't set anybody free. It was a remark, a document made to suggest punishment to the states in rebellion, and the states that were slave states that hadn't joined the Confederacy weren't covered on the Emancipation Proclamation. Well, enough of that. I didn't come here to lecture you. But to know that there was a preliminary Emancipation Proclamation in '62 before the other one went into effect in '63, you know, I hadn't run across a student who knew that at that time. And so I said to myself, well, I better sharpen up. This gal's going to get the best of me if I'm not on the top of my game in this class, you know. And that's what a good student does. And we're often blessed to have students that encourage us and persuade and compel us as instructors, as professors, to always be at our best and not be complacent and to be available to take the young folks a little further, wherever they're starting from. And most of them then start at the place that Hillary started at. And I will read just a little bit of her accomplishments and honors that were given, that she has earned over the years. And by the way, she's from Shepherdstown, West Virginia. It's just about 5 miles, as I looked at the map, from Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, where John Brown led his little ragtag but devoted army of 22 revolutionaries that were going to try to start their own version of the Civil War. And probably partly because of living in proximity to that place and seeing the National Park Service devoted to that at Harper's Ferry, and I understand your dad worked there too part of the time. She's always had this deep interest in history, especially Civil War history and African American history, going to integrated schools in that area of West Virginia and near Washington, D.C., where the 3 states, West Virginia, Virginia, and Maryland, meet there, growing up there. And she worked at Harper's Ferry as a teenager and also authored one of the National Park Service bulletins used there at that National Park site before coming to UM. She's a member of the Phi Alpha Theta History Honor Society and was the Alpha Lambda Delta Freshman Honor Society, 3.67 cumulative GPA. She was a keynote speaker at the West Virginia Environmental Education Association conference back in 2010, has been selected to participate in 2 different historical tours for honor students in Ireland back in 2012 and Greece in 2013. And just one of the top students that it's been our good fortune, myself and Tobin and many others, whoever she's taken a class with, to come our way and give us the honor of staying sharp and staying tuned up and ready to take a student such as that a little further and trying to enhance that. As you can tell, I didn't prepare a speech, right, Murray? I just felt that this would be easy to talk about. These wonderful human beings that have brought us all together. Every one of you, all of you donors to the Ulysses Doss Scholarship, I want to personally thank all of you. Kind of moving somebody else's notes around there. But thank you so much for all that you've done and contributed so generously to what we've been able to do, and to our young people who are going forward and taking that vision of making the previously untold history a part of the regular school curriculum in all of America's schools. It's going to be a battle in Texas, I'll tell you. But I don't want to pick on Texas, sorry. But yeah, they banned ethnic studies, and I think Arizona followed suit with that too. And so it's a struggle still, 40 years later, 45 years later now. But thank you all for all your contributions, for keeping this movement alive. There's plenty of work yet to be done. And so with that said, let's bring up Hillary, by golly. So I didn't ask you in advance if you wanted to make any remarks. Okay. Well, it's my honor to present Hillary Grabowska with the first Ulysses Doss African American Studies scholarship. And there's her certificate representing that. And then also thanks to Diana Riley and whoever helped you with this, you have your own personal copy of the Constitution of the first Black Student Union at the University of Montana, created October 13th, 1968. And I'll let you come on up and make a few remarks if you will.
Well, I definitely have to say thank you so much. As Dr. Price said, I am from West Virginia, and one of the hardest decisions when I was trying to decide where to go to school, I was looking at schools also in New York, and I really kept coming back to the University of Montana, but as my dad kept telling me, Montana's not very diverse. And I have come from a diverse background, and so that was definitely something I had to come to terms with, that it was going to be a predominantly white school. And in the end, I decided to come here. And my sophomore year, I took Dr. Shearer's Intro to African American Studies class, and I must say I was very wary of this class. The first thing that Dr. Shearer told us on the class was, you know, I'm sure you're all asking yourself, what's this white man teaching African American Studies here in Montana? Why is he teaching it? And I felt that that was the best way to open the class and to get us talking about African American history. So I'd like to thank you, Dr. Shearer. And it was from that class that I decided to pick up the minor of African American Studies, which I couldn't have picked up without all of you folks. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Hold on right there. As I walked over to the side there, I forgot that I was going to have Ulysses come up and relay the award to Hillary. So, and there were several people that wanted to take a picture of you guys together. Would you like to? After? Okay, Ulysses. Okay. Sorry, I forgot that part of the ceremony there. Okay, and Diana, was there someone else?
Yes, we're waiting for you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
I am interrupting this procedure, and Diana's not going to be happy with me, but I have been required by my dean to come. Dean Chris Comer is not able to be here tonight, but he asked, indeed required, that I read this letter, which is a commendation for Diana. Read it very quickly, Diana, so don't get too mad. On behalf of the College of Arts and Sciences, this is Dean Comer writing, I write to recognize and thank Diana Riley. Her dedication to African American Studies at the University of Montana spans more than 4 decades. A host of students in UM's Black Studies program at its inception, and the dynamic organizer of the reunions today, her passion for this program is exceptional. Her gifts of time and talent have brought 2 of these reunions to life. 4 years ago and today, her hard work and sheer force of will made something out of nothing. Personally contacting so many of you and coordinating the logistics of this complex organism that is UM, well, that's no small feat. She and her husband Larry also seeded the Ulysses S. Doss Scholarship, and thanks to them and many of you, we're delighted it will be awarded for the first time this year and will continue to honor the work of Dr. Doss for years to come. A recipient of the 2010 Montana Alumni Award, Diana has worked tirelessly to give back to UM. Alumna like Diana mean so much not just to a program or a college, but to the entire campus. We are better for counting her as our friend, and I hope you'll join me in again thanking her for all of her work.
Yay.
So something else that you guys may not know There is what's been termed an emergency fund at the university that assists students with if you need a jacket, a coat, or if you don't have enough money for books or those things. There's an emergency fund here, and that was also seated by Larry and Diana Riley.
Thank you, Jeff. And I'll just add a word. Some of you asked for promotional materials about our African American Studies program. I've got a small handful I have in the back table. If you'd like some, please come and get it to spread the news about this great program. If I run out, give me your name. I'll send you the PDF file, and you can print as many as you want. Thank you.
What a day. I feel like calling up the few members of the University of Montana Black Ensemble up to the podium here and singing, "Oh, happy day!" But I won't. Frances says thank you, because she was the leader on that particular song. I want to say, I'm going to be very brief, what a profound pleasure it is to be here these few days and to bask in all of this glorious history. You know, I get a chance to tell my story over and over because of my entertainment connections. You know, I'm being interviewed constantly, and people want to know, you know, well, where did you go to school? Did you major in music? I say, no, I majored in art. Art? Well, where did you go to school? I said, the University of Montana. Montana? What were you doing in Montana? And that's my big door. So I get to tell my story. Anyway, it's been just tremendous, and I appreciate the work of Diana and Larry and everybody else that has had a hand in making this time possible. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you, I'm not introducing really, you already know him, but I'm going to ask Maceo to come up here and just give us a little insight on his personal experience back in the day. So Maceo, would you come forward?
First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to the Black Student Reunion Committee for inviting me back for this special event. To Diana Riley, Jody Moreau, again, you both have done a fantastic job. Thank you. I want to acknowledge the faculty members and my fellow Grizz mates, John, and all the guests. Your support for this event is greatly appreciated. This is my third trip back to the UM since 2009, and each trip has been historical in itself. On October 16th, 2009, 1 month after the Black Studies reunion, I was part of the 2009 Sports Hall of Fame inductees. To see my old Grizz team, mates for the first time in 40 years, we were all crying, so don't worry about that. Men do cry. And I must say, we finally got our rings, Hall of Fame rings. Diana asked me to share with you what the University of Montana has meant to me in my life's journey and how it has contributed to my success. I measure success by my contributions to happiness of others and my own happiness. The factors that have contributed to my success has been God, my wife, caring coaches, career choices, and lifetimes of services to others and a solid education, especially my experiences at Baltimore City College High School and here at the University of Montana. My life was also shaped by the by the turbulent times that our country experienced, the civil rights movements of the 60s, the bombings of the black churches in Birmingham, killing 4 black girls in September of '63, the assassination of John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, '63, and the murders of the 3 civil rights workers, Cheney, Goodman, and Squirts, in '64. Operation Rolling Thunder, that's when the United States sent their first troops into combat in Vietnam. The assassination of Martin Luther King on April 4th. 5 months later, John F. Kennedy on June 5th of '68. The Black Power salute by the gold and bronze medalists in the Olympics of Mexico City in '68. The Vietnam War from 1965 to 1973 was the most powerful event that motivated me to excel in high school and in college. Our country was going through an enormous social transition, and Baltimore City College and the U of M prepared me for this transition. For me, it's to be a front runner for the young black men and women that will follow. A brief history of my humble beginnings will help you understand why my experience at the University of Montana was so important to me. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, the second of 4 children, and the only son of Celestine Cortez Gray and Joseph Wellington Gray. My father attended high school located in Indian Head, Maryland, where he was a star baseball player. He dropped out of school in 1935 to pursue a semi-pro baseball career with the Charles County Raiders, a member of the Negro Semi-Baseball League. Only making $3, he had to give it up. And he turned into a professional chauffeur for the Yellow Cab Company located in Baltimore. In June '58, my dad died. I was 9 years old. I was left there with my mother at the age of 35. She had the responsibility of raising 4 children alone. She worked 2 jobs to support the family. My aunt and godmother, Aunt Nellie Gray, she was the first member of the Gray's family to ever graduate from college. She attended college in 1925 and received her BA in education from the University of New York. My aunt was the person that I looked up to in my educational endeavors. My mother and my grandfather were very instrumental in my early childhood development and upbringing. From the age of 8 to 14, I spent summer months on my grandfather's farm learning about the agricultural business. My grandfather was one of the first black farmers in Enfield, North Carolina to own his own farm. My grandfather's family are one of the few recipients of the 40 acres and a mule. That was the farm deal by the United States government back in 1865, was the first reparations that was paid to free the slaves in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. My grandfather specialized in growing alfalfa, cotton, corn, peanuts, and tobacco. He also raised some chickens and cows too. But my summer vacations on my grandfather's farm was designed to keep me out of trouble during those preteen years and hot summer months. And at the same time, working on the farm developed my work ethics, enabled me to better perform my school assignments and daily chores. I attended Baltimore City College High School, the 3rd oldest high school in the United States, and the largest high school in the state of Maryland in 1965. My 3 years at Baltimore City College High School, I was homeroom president, member of the varsity B club, and member of the mathematics club. My high school football team won the 8 conference championships titles in '63 and '64. Because of my team's success at Baltimore City College, I was first team All-Maryland in 1964. And when I graduated in '65, I was the first black student athlete that was elected into the Baltimore City College Hall of Fame in athletics and football. And during my early years in the '60s, of course, many blacks were the first of their people to accomplish feats at white institutions. The 1964 Civil Rights Act had given them access, at least on paper, of equal opportunity. Because the white institutions that were now awakening to the potentials of black student athletes, I received over 16 scholarships while attending Baltimore City College during my junior and senior year. However, I was advised by my football coach, George Young, who was the former general manager of the New York Giants, to stay away from colleges and universities south of the Mason-Dixon. The University of Maryland, in my home state, had a terrible reputation because of the racism in the college community. The historical black colleges were not offering full NCAA scholarships. I couldn't afford to attend college unless I had a full NCAA scholarship, that is room, board, tuition, books, and a work-study program. After reviewing my college scholarship options, I signed a letter of intent to attend the Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado, on a full NCAA scholarship. Colleges and universities north and west of the Mason-Dixon line were integrating sooner than the schools in the Southeastern Conference and the Atlantic Coast Conference. Jim Crow in the South was still alive and well, despite the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. After my graduation from high school in June of '65, I began my first full-time summer employment at Bethlehem Steel in Sparrows Point, Maryland. As a crane operator, I worked 60 to 40 hours a week in the blast furnace area where all the black laborers were working. At temperatures that exceed 115 and 120 degrees. My salary was only $150 a week. But my 10-week summer job experience with Bethlehem Steel convinced me of the real importance of getting a college education. This is where my journey began on August 1st, 1965. I traveled 1,900 miles on a trailway bus from Baltimore, Maryland to Fort Collins. 3 days, 2 nights, to pursue my dream to get a college degree. It is hard to imagine tonight making that trip across country on a public bus without cell phones, laptops, DVD players, iPods. Imagine being on a bus for 3 days and 2 nights that didn't even have air conditioning and bathroom facilities. The bus stopped at every local trailway bus station for restroom breaks. Finally, as I arrived in Fort Collins on August 3 of '65, I was greeted by the Coach Bowman, Colorado State University, and Coach Marvin Wetzel from Trinidad State Junior College. Little did I know my expectation of attending Colorado State University would abruptly end. All coming in freshmen football players were told that their scholarships were transferred to the local Trinidad State Junior College. We were told if we do well at the assigned junior colleges, we could reapply at CSU in the sophomore years. In those days, freshmen were not allowed to play on the varsity football team. So I said if it meant that I had to go to TJC Junior College, first, in order to start my college education and my football career, I was going to make the best of it. Nothing was going to stop me from attaining my goal of returning home with my 4-year college degree. Majoring in education and mathematics at Trinidad State Junior College, I was successful on the gridiron and also in the classroom. As a freshman, I led the Trojans to the Empire Conference Championships, and I was named Empire Conference running back and defensive back. My mother and my grandmother's prayers were working again. I received over 16 scholarships while attending Trinidad State Junior College as a freshman. And this time the schools were located west and northwest of the Mason-Dixon. Such schools as New Mexico University, Utah State, San Jose, San Diego, Idaho, Northern Arizona, Montana State University, and the University of Montana were all interested in me joining their football program. Bob Tiller, he was assistant coach at Montana State University. He offered me a full scholarship and a recruiting trip to Bozeman, Montana. This was my first trip on an airplane. It was a DC-4 plane. The plane felt like and looked like a trailway bus with wings on it. Although Montana State University offered me the best NCAA scholarship that was offered to students at that time, I did not feel comfortable at the school. Maybe it was all about being a Bobcat. By the time I returned back to Trinidad Junior College, I had several phone calls from the University of Montana. Coach Wally Brown wanted to schedule me trip to the UM campus in Missoula, Montana. After listening to Brown's sales pitch about the U of M and the new football program and the excitement over the hiring of the new head football coach and athletic director, Coach Brown had my attention. Jack Swarthought, he was the new head football coach, had been an assistant head coach for a winning football team at the University of Texas. Even though the thought of another roller coaster ride on that DC plane could not dampen my enthusiasm. On my arrival in Missoula, I met the entire Grizz football staff. There were 4 coaches who interviewed me. Unlike my experiences at Montana State, I spent nearly 2 days discussing education as well as football. Not only did I meet the players, but I also met with some key faculty members. The football team had 3 team advisors to assist the new recruits in taking the proper courses for their major courses of study. Dr. Wilson, he had my high school transcript, my junior college transcript. He began recommending courses that I should take if I decide to transfer to the U of M for the spring football practices. I had the chance to meet Naseby, Doc Reinhardt. We all know about him. He was the beloved athletic trainer that joined the UM athletic department in 1931. His best friend, we heard about him tonight, he was Jim Dorsey. He was the first African American on record to have graduated from the U of M Law School back in the 20s. And during that interview, Nays told me that the Grizz football team had not had a winning season since 1935. That's the year he graduated. Mr. Naseby told me in our interview that he felt very good about the new coaching staff and the athletic director and the new football recruits. He felt that the Grizzlies would be a very special team in the upcoming football season. In my final interview with Jack Swarthought, he asked me, what will it take for me to come to the U of M? And I said, Coach, I have 4 friends back at Trinidad State Junior College that are looking for a 4-year school to complete their studies and play football. And he told me, and I told him a little bit about that background, and he told me that he would look into the backgrounds of the candidates that I recommended, and he would do his best to help. He didn't make any promise, but he did say he'd do his best to help. By the spring quarter began, by the time the spring quarter began at the U of M, I was already transferred from Trinidad State Junior College and enrolled at the U of M on a full NCAA scholarship. Room and board, meals, tuition, books, and $15 monthly per diem, and an opportunity to have a summer job. We had a very successful spring practices. The annual spring inter-squad Grizz game drew the largest football crowds in recent years. The buzz in Missoula among the businessmen and the alumni was very positive about the upcoming Grizzlies football season. My performance in the classroom and at the spring quarter was also good, 3-1 out of 4-0. Most of my Grizz teammates accepted summer jobs working for the city, repairing the streets, or working for the UM Forestry Department. I had the opportunity to work for Mr. Jim Chisholm. He was the CEO and owner of the Metal Gold Dairy right here on North Street. I was on what they call the Metal Gold College Training Rotational Program, learning all about the dairy business. The training was excellent, the pay was good, and the perks was outstanding. Free dairy products, cheese, milk, and ice cream, all on the take-home basis. Okay? But the hours were tough, 4 a.m. in the morning and 2 p.m. 6 days a week. This job was also a year-round part-time job opportunity for me. My first summer in Missoula was great. I had a good job, good summer roommates. Herb White from Michigan was our cook. Roy Robinson, right here locally, a Montana guy. He loved to fish and hunt. And I was the dairy product, milk, cottage cheese, and ice cream provider. Among the 3 of us, we had some great meals and some good times. But I would never forget the day when I came home from work. And Herb had this letter waiting for me. He said, bro, I got this special delivery letter for you. I said, is it good news or bad news? Herb said, bro, it's bad news. Then Herb gave me this letter, greetings from Uncle Sam letter, telling me to report to my draft board in Baltimore, Maryland. Yes, oh my God. I was Vietnam bound. Just when things were going great for me, I was being drafted by the United States Army. I felt that my football scholarship, my college friends, and my dreams of college would be lost forever. Then Herb said, bro, it's not all that bad. You got one option left. See if the coach can get you in the Reserve Officer Training Corps, the ROTC program. I made an appointment immediately. No half step, immediately. I met with Coach Swarthout. He made a few calls through the ROTC office, and I was enrolled in the ROTC program for the summer semester. My first summer in Missoula was coming to a close, and the 1967 football season was only 30 days away. My teammates from Trinidad State Junior College had joined the team for the fall practices. By the time the fall semester began, my other friends were registering for fall classes. The university came through for my 4 Trinidad college friends, and they all qualified for scholarships. The head new coach and the new recruits paid off. The Montana Grizzlies had their first winning season since 1935 with 7 wins and 3 losses. Our football team started the winning tradition at the U of M. And our 1967 Grizz team photos was the first in UM history that was colored that we have of a complete team. That's the first colored pictures that they ever had, photos for the team, and that was in 1967. When Martin Luther King was assassinated, the riots swept the nation. In honor of the late Martin Luther King, the black students at the U of M led a peaceful march into downtown Missoula. Many of the hometown black athletes attending UM were affected by the riots in Seattle, Washington, Compton, California, Watts, California, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Fort Pierce, East Orange, New Jersey, Detroit, Michigan, and Baltimore, Maryland. This march provided healing to these athletes, and we were also supported by the progressive white Native American students too. A few weeks later, a group of us had the privilege to hear a community organizer. Sounds familiar, right? His name was Ulysses Doss from Chicago, to speak to a group of UM students on the Oval, on the campus. Herb White, Esther, and myself all agreed that we needed a leader with his passion for civil rights issues at the U of M to help guide the black students through the most turbulent times we were facing. After attending several of his speeches on campus, and after meeting with Professor Ulysses Doss in person, we agreed that we could start something very special here at the U of M that would improve the educational experience for all students. To the best of my recollection, 3 of us, Herbie, Esther, and I, met with the President Robert Panther to explore the possibilities of hiring Professor Doss to establish the Black Studies program at the U of M. Professor Doss, you all know, turned down several opportunities back east, including an opportunity at Notre Dame University to come to the U of M. By the fall of 1968, Professor Ulysses Doss was setting up his program at the U of M. In the beginning, it was only about 8 to 12 black students and several progressive whites and Native students that made up the nucleus of his class. Under Professor Doss' leadership, we formed the first Black Study Union at the U of M. On October 13th, 1968, the Constitution of the Black Student Union of the university was created. Our vision as black students of the U of M was to foster pride in our cultural identity within the framework of the American economic and political system. We would accomplish this by creating an atmosphere at the UM campus where respect for all racial and ethnic groups may flourish. Supporting the Black Study program at the UN that highlight the contributions of Black Americans, preparing ourselves to be leaders in a pluralistic society. Our purpose was to establish an identity for Black people on campus. By Black identity, we meant to instill racial pride within ourselves, educating other ethnic groups as to the culture of Black people. Our ultimate purpose was to eliminate all forms of racism, economic, political, and forever, and never forget that Black is beautiful. The original elected officers by the general body of the 1968 Black Studies Union were President Herb White, sorry he's not here tonight, Vice President Mace Gray, Secretary was Esther Hadley, Treasurer Esther Hadley, Sergeant of Arms, Harold Ross. The vote was ratified by 2/3 of the majority of the active members. Our theme song played before every BSU meeting was the R&B lyrics by James Brown, I'm Black and I'm Proud. We also had a theme song in the Grizz football locker room after a tough practice or a game or loss, or when we were so tired and exhausted. We would play or sing the song by Curtis Mayfield, Keep On Pushing. As student athletes, after a 3-hour practice, we were still required to devote a minimum of 3 hours of studying each day. We were required as student athletes to keep on pushing. On June 15, 1969, on the 72nd annual commencement at the University of Montana, I received my Bachelor's of Science degree in the field of education. I was one of 3 Black student athletes to graduate from the U of M, and my goal for a 3-year college degree was accomplished. How did my education at the U of M prepare me for my career? Receiving my college diploma from President Robert Panzer was an achievement that nobody can take from you. My football career at the U of M prepared me for the next level. I signed my first NFL contract with the Baltimore Colts as a free agent for $14,000 plus signing bonus. I played for Coach Don Shula. He gave me the opportunity to start in the Colt night game against the Washington Redskins, coached by the late Vince Lombardi. What makes this so significant is that both of these coaches are in the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. The U of M ROTC program prepared me for the United States Army training course in Fort Dix, New Jersey. I graduated number 1 out of 178 trainees in the 2nd Battalion. I also set numerous physical fitness records during my training at Fort Dix. I served as a National Guard during the remainder of the Vietnam era. As an NG, my unit helped restore law and order during the civil riots in Baltimore and the student uprising at the University of Maryland, the city riots in Washington, D.C., and the city burnings in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My unit also led a convoy of commercial gasoline tankers across the Pennsylvania Turnpike during the trucker strike in '72. The UN work-study program with medical dairies prepared me for my 15-year career with Exxon Company USA. In 1980, I ranked number 1 out of 64 Exxon sales marketing managers, 1 out of 5 African Americans who broke the color barriers in petroleum marketing with Humble, Esso, Exxon, and Exxon Company USA. Exxon Company USA prepared me with the business skills to launch my first business called Domace's Contemporary Mart in Daytona Beach, Florida. Domace's Contemporary Mart was a restaurant, deli, catering service, specialty wine shop, and a clothier shop, all while selling petroleum product. Domace's was more than just a business. It was a community hub for the politicians, the doctors, the lawyers, the artisans, the celebrities, and the collegiates. Domace's was featured on the local TV stations and Evening Magazine and received the nomination for the Business Awards in Central Florida. Domace's became the vehicle for me to give something back to my community. We provided scholarships for youth that demonstrated academic potentials for needed college funding. We provided students with an opportunity to earn money for their college education while working at Domace's. The participating colleges in the area from which I drew my employees from was Daytona Beach College, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and Bethune-Cookman College. In '88, I heed to the call, go west, young man, go west again, and sold our business. My wife and I, we took an exciting and challenging position as a husband and wife team with a Motorola Communications Division in Scottsdale, Arizona. My wife, Doris, she accepted a position as a divisional contract manager, director of contracts, and the commercial attorney. I was also offered a position of manufacturing product material leader and the elected workforce diversity facilitator. For 23 years, my wife and I, we changed the landscape on how Motorola, the second largest employer in the state of Arizona with 27,000 employees, conducted their business in the state of Arizona. My wife challenged the company to maintain the highest codes of ethics in business practices and in dealing with customers and suppliers and employees and shareholders. My passion in the corporate environment for 20 years has been my continued fight for and to end race, age, and gender discrimination. As the elected workforce diversity facilitators, some of the activities in which we implemented at Motorola made them the premier employer of choice for Blacks and Hispanic employees. Black and Hispanic Engineers of the Year programs were designed to promote our best and finest engineers on a national and global level. The Black History Awareness Month was designed to recognize the contributions and highlight the Black professions in the field of engineering and in the high-tech company. The New Network Times monthly publication was designed to stimulate and educate the employees all about the major events that were taking place in the Black community and in the workplace. We had activities that set Motorola above the competition and helped them to recruit and retain the top Black and Hispanic employees and made the workplace environment conducive for all employees. The passion I have for civil rights, for the people that transcend into the place I work. In 1995, I formed the Rifted Employees Association of Arizona to fight discrimination in every form and to promote fairness in the workplace. Job discrimination was so rampant in Arizona that I had to make a trip to DC to speak to my congressman, the Justice Department, and the Labor Department about the job discrimination. Alliances were formed with the Department of Economic Security, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Fort McDowell Indian Tribal Councils, the Chicana La Casa Legal Council, and the American Association for Retired People in order to promote fairness in the workplace. My members consist of people over 40 years old, disabled, and Vietnam veterans, and all people of all races. The Association of the Retired People awarded me with a grant to file a class action lawsuit against major companies for race, nationality, gender, and age discrimination. Out of the 33 plaintiffs that my organization represented, we were able to win 31 of the cases. And we were able to settle them and provide homes and careers and individual dignity for the people that won their cases. And because of my passion for civil rights, I was also nominated 3 years in a row from the Phoenix Human Relations Commission for the Martin Luther King Living the Dream Award. It was a turning point in my life, reading the nomination letters from hundreds of supporters for the Rifted Employees Association. I would like to end my story by giving a small tribute to a man that had a great impact on my life. Jack Swarthout, athletic director and head football coach at the U of M from 1967 to 1976. In fact, he probably saved my life with a telephone call to the ROTC office. Jack Harold Swarthout was diagnosed with cancer in 2009. He was given only 6 months to live. And with the help and prayers of friends and families, he lived 4 more years. And then Jack died on October 14, 2005. Coaches Jack Swarthout's legacy to young men he coached was more than how to execute the game plan to win. His legacy was to his personal example of integrity. I can still remember my closing interview with Jack Swarthout 46 years ago when he agreed to help my deserving friends from TSJC to continue their education. He kept his word and provided 2 more football scholarships for the friends to continue their education and football careers at the U of N. Business guru Stephen Covey defines integrity as, quote, a promise made is a promise kept, unquote. This epitomizes Jack Swarthant. His wife, Mary, has continued Jack's legacy of equipping young men with the skills and the character to achieve a better life through athletics program. She needed $40,000 to keep the Caring Coaches Foundation and 501c3 public charity going strong. All my former teammates who played for Coach Swarthant responded to my campaign letter, and collectively we exceeded the $40,000 goal. Mary told me that she replicated my campaign marketing letter, and the foundation has been able to help many at-risk neighborhoods build new athletic facilities. One of the athletic buildings that the CCF was able to build cost more than $1 million. That was a consistent theme among my former coaches and teachers at the U of M. The theme was to strive for excellence in all that you do, set goals and objectives. However, what I took away from U of M was a sense of purpose or dignity. I discovered my purpose in life, and I'm still continuing that journey. Graveyards are full of people who never knew their purpose and hence never reached their potential. Discover your passion, because there lies your purpose. I hope that sharing my journey from Baltimore to Colorado to Missoula can encourage some of the young folks here. And my thing is, keep pursuing your passion. If it hadn't been for God, my wife, and 16 caring coaches in my life, there would never be a Mace Gray to share the story with you tonight. God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you, Mace. We appreciate the in-depth sharing of your journey here. One of the many, and at the same time, one of the few, back in 1967. I'd like to ask Esther the Money Hadley Akbar. For all of those who knew her then, and for us who know her now, and will always know and love this woman, my former roommate, to come forward and share.
Good evening, everyone. So pleased to be here. Thank you for having me. How do you follow up after Maceo? My story is a little more, is also very unique. But I'm really honored to have the opportunity to speak again before this group of alumni, faculty, students, and community. Coming back to a place where I briefly spent my youth leaves me with many emotions. I left here at age 25 with my baby boy, and I'm returning at 65, having traveled on a marvelous journey. I'm now the mother of 4 and the grandmother of 16. And it's true that everything comes full circle. My son was born here. My unusual beginnings started in the Philippine Islands. My mother, during her pregnancy, was fascinated with Esther Williams, the Olympic swimming star turned actress. And hence she gave me that name. My father was an African-American soldier stationed at Clark Air Force Base. He was a tall, sandy-haired Creole from New Orleans with hazel eyes. He lived in Oakland, California, and she thought she had found her dream man. That dream was shattered 9 days after I was born, when he admitted that he was indeed married with no children because his wife was barren. He was being sent back to the United States, and she never saw him again. 5 years later, she married my stepfather, who legally adopted me, and we set sail for America on a ship. I arrived in 1953. The journey was difficult and very much an omen of what was to come in my life. My young life was so challenging, I learned to become immersed in education to distract myself from an emotionally hectic family atmosphere. I graduated from high school early, applied to the University of Colorado. In those days, you had to send a photo along with the application. I had felt certain that my excellent grades and SAT scores, I had as good a chance as anyone. And my stepfather told me this was the method to discriminate and deny me. I received the rejection letter in 1965. Ironically, I became an employee of the University of Colorado in the 1970s. But after recovering from that disappointment, I worked 2 menial jobs and saved everything for 1 year and applied to Trinidad State Junior College and was accepted. It was very empowering to pay for my first year of college on my own efforts, and my life changed and became free of my oppressive home, and my spirit could no longer be suppressed. I met Maceo Gray at TSJC. He took me with him to Montana. The university education and experiences I had molded me into a very fearless, strong, creative woman. We fought for justice here, not just for ourselves, but also for those who would come after us. I developed habits of excellence, setting standards for myself, which helped me to develop a skill set for quality professional work. U of M provided a rich training ground to practice being a visionary, a leader, and one who can implement my ideas and make them real. Everybody can't do that. A lot of people have ideas, but they don't know how to make them happen. You know, they get halfway there, but I learned to follow up and follow through. I completed my bachelor's degree in social work, and I have nearly completed a master's in business administration. I've had more than one career. I started out in the nonprofit world, and I found it unstable and low paying. So I switched over to academia and began at the University of Colorado Boulder campus. It was the Black Education Program. The team came from Kentucky, Illinois, the Bahamas, and the director, Bill Pitts, came from Purdue. Bill Pitts was a fiery, radical, and fearless man. He was really my kind of guy. The model for working with students was similar to U of M's program, but radically escalated. He put extra support systems into place for students. Our counseling model was intense and comprehensive. We became the destination spot for Black students. Gone were the days when students were winging their college experience on their own. We advocated for our students, especially when department chairs made decisions against Black students that could mean the difference between staying or going. A Princeton professor came to speak at one of our conferences. She was very impressed with the work that we were doing, and she also taught at Douglas College, which was the Women's College of Rutgers University in New Jersey. She told me of a program that was in danger of losing their funding because the retention numbers were so low. She got me an interview, and I was hired, and I moved my little family to New Jersey. The position was an assistant professor's position. In about 18 months, we turned the 20% retention numbers around to 80%, and we maintained that all the years that I was there. In the 1990s until now, I have worked as a nonprofit consultant, providing advisory services to nonprofits, advising them on fundraising, brand marketing, designing evaluation tools, writing business plans and grants. Currently, I am the founder and executive director of Neighborly Needs Incorporated. The concept is to provide to single mothers social service assistance, education for mother and children, and economic development by microfunding small businesses. The idea is to assist mothers to rise out of poverty by creating a way to sustain and provide for her family, especially if she is unable to gain employment. I want to gear it towards women in the 18 to 45 years age range because these are the critical and prime mothering years. The evidence-based theories for this concept started here. It comes from a book entitled The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, written by Paulo Freire, a Brazilian priest. And I read that book in the Black Studies, one of the Black Studies courses, and it stayed with me all my life, and it had an impact on who I worked with and how I worked with them. It sensitized me to what people were really going through, and I tried to find innovative ways to address these problems, which I think is our responsibility as educated people. We need not be complacent or arrogant, but we need to go out and really assist people that need help. Eventually, our fervent goal is to help oppressed women to find a way to overcome the debilitating poverty that they experience. And eventually we hope to serve 1,000 families a year and to establish locations across the United States to also serve Native American, Latino, and Asian women as well. We've also discussed an international focus serving women in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. I'm also writing a book entitled The Wind in Her Sails. I have been interviewing, I was a single mother for a decade, and my children were very young. I was fully employed, I took care of them myself, and the experiences that I had in trying to keep my little family together, I chronicled. And I put into place systems that allowed me to become more effective, not only as a mother, but also as a professional. I had to deal with both things and how to make all those financial ends meet and how to create a happy family, children who were, who were balanced emotionally. These were things that I coped with. And so I'm writing it into a book, but I'm also interviewing other single moms who have successfully raised children. I feel that the single black mother is one of the unsung heroines in our community, and many of you who were raised by a single mom, you know what I'm talking about. I hope to shed a light on these hardworking women who dealt with racism and sexism and other isms along their collective journey. Yet they went forward anyway. They raised children anyway. And their children were the beneficiaries of their commitment. I will also advise young mothers from my perspective as a single mom for many years, and I expect to finish and publish the book before I open the doors to NNI. It will be advantageous to offer it to my clients when we officially open our doors next year. I have a vision board that outlines my wildly improbable goals, which Oprah advises you to do. Set wildly improbable goals. And who knows what kind of projects come out of that in the next 3 to 5 years. I am very excited, even though I am 65 years old, I don't feel it because there's still a lot of work to be done. And that commitment, that passion, came from being in this university. We learned how to be leaders here because there was no template. The things that we did were based on our own intelligence and the incredible learning that we received from the university. It was an excellent place to learn, and we developed excellent skills. And it is something that I think if you spoke to every person that finished here, whether black or white, they could say, I have these excellent skills. And I found over the years working in institutions of higher education that I really did get a superior education because oftentimes I was the person that was innovating and that was creating new ways for, for people to function. I had a sweet experience in 2001. I am a Sunni Muslim, and I taught in a small Islamic academy. And I had second graders, and I'd never taught little people before. And I decided to treat them like college students. And you know, when they came to school, they were still sucking their thumbs and pretty much being babies. And so that year, they finished all 7 of their textbooks. They learned 400 words. They learned how to present themselves in front of people. I taught them manners and etiquette. And these children, there were 30 of them, now are in their 20, 21 years of age. They all graduated high school and gifted and talented programs and went on to the university. And so many of the students that I worked with were, you know, high risk, low income students that really weren't supposed to graduate from universities. But because of the extra things that I did with them, created an atmosphere that gave them that empowered feeling, and they did graduate and they did finish, and they came from some of the worst high schools in New Jersey. You know, East Side High School in Patterson, you remember they did the movie Lean on Me? Those kids were just a conglomerate of other children who went through things like that. But what I believed was that it was possible. I always told them that they were intelligent, they could handle this situation, and let me show you how. And because I came here and I overcame a lot of things and a lot of hindrances, I taught them how to creatively handle their situations and how to negotiate the landscape of the universities that they were in. So anyway, I thank you very much. I wanted to take a minute or two to talk about Herb White because I did take the time to interview him. He was unable to come. And I wanted to tell you that Herb White was our first BSU president, and he was also a football player. And forgive me, I left my notes, so I have to now remember what I talked to him about. I spoke to him for a couple of hours. He graduated with a master's degree in divinity and worked for the Methodist Church, and he was a minister all his life, and he retired as a minister. He's always worked in the community and also was a person who was very passionate and made a lot of difference in the communities that he worked in. We talked about the fact that he had an experience here at UM when, Jesse Owens was his hero. Some of you are too young to know who Jesse Owens was, but he was the fastest man alive in 1936 at the Berlin Games in front of Hitler. And Hitler claimed the superiority of the Aryan race and that everybody from Germany was going to win. And Jesse won 4 gold medals then. And he was quite a man. When he came back, President Roosevelt did not acknowledge his win because he was worried about the Southern vote. It was an election year. And so Jesse was ignored by the president. And he went on to live well anyway. But he came here to the campus. He met all of the African American football players at that time, and he shook their hands. And Herb said this was like a really important defining moment for him to have met someone like him, because it gave him also courage to move forward and to go on. He also had the privilege of meeting here at the university Mr. Alex Haley, who was the author of the autobiography of Malcolm X and Roots. And at the time, he was writing the book Roots. And he came to speak to a journalism class about his writings, and Herb found out about him and actually went over there to meet him, and they had a wonderful conversation about his writings. And he said these were some of the experiences. We had Adam Clayton Powell came here, Julian Bond, Tina Turner, Shirley Chisholm. I didn't meet her. Stokely Carmichael, and we were talking about how we had met Stokely Carmichael in other places and at other times. So we talked about some of the famous people we were able to meet along the way, and had found that we had met some of the same people. But anyway, Herb is retired now, and he's grandfather and just kind of chilling out. But he wanted to send his beautiful regards to all of you and his love, and we thank you very much for having us this evening and listening patiently to our stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Well, I think I'm supposed to wrap this up now. I'm going to be very brief with my story, which after listening to Esther, to Mace, and to some of the other people, Judy, Diana, Junie, and so forth, it's been truly fascinating to me to have gaps filled in and to hear other perspectives of what was going on back in 1967. I have a whole nother story to tell you. I came here, I was recruited, and I didn't know until right now that Esther, the money, was not recruited in the same way that I was. I thought she was. This is my story, and that is in the summer of 1967, I was in the country of Iran. I had been selected to be a part of the first ever ecumenical group by the Presbyterian Church and the Olympic Diocese out of Washington, D.C., who had a world deputation program where they sent college students all over the world, anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. And this was going to be the first year where they sent an ecumenical group. So there was an organization at the junior college I attended in Bremerton, Washington at Olympic College, where we helped high school students prepare for college and tutoring and filling out applications, and so forth. Anyway, I was asked to join this group, and I said yes, and we set sail out of New York June 15th, 1967, to go to Iran to have dialogue with Iranian Christians. That was our duty, and that was quite an experience that I'll bypass to cut this short. But while I was away, my mother got in touch with me and said that she had been contacted by a dean of students, Dean Cogswell from the University of Montana. And would I be interested in talking to him about the possibility of attending that institution? And I'm saying, okay, because I'm thinking, well, I didn't want to go to a big school. I was in Seattle, Washington at the time, and the University of Washington was a really big school, and I don't know why I didn't want to go to a big school. So the thought of going to a slightly smaller school, which turned out to be a really smaller school, was very appealing to me, especially one that, because I had the academic grades, was going to provide me with a full ride scholarship too, plus a work-study job. And the reason for this is that year that Mace came, the spring of 1967, there were 8 black athletics, 8 black men on athletic scholarship. And at that time, there were no black women, and there was a lot of curiosity amongst the young white female students, and dating ensued. And some of the townspeople here in Missoula got very upset about that and went to President Panzer and said, "You need to fix this." So the president at that time, and I know Dean Cogswell has something to do with this as an advisor to President Panzer, rather than sticking their heads in the sand, took what I'd like to consider a form of affirmative action and told some of those guys that I need a list of some black women that you know, and I don't think they really cared whether they was mamas, aunties, sisters, or cousins, whatever, to come here, girlfriends, you know, to come here and fill up the slack with some black female presence. So my good friend was Gartha Morgan, one of the recruited football players. Gartha and I had attended Olympic College in Bremerton there out of Seattle, and we were actually bid whist partners because there were 50 black students who attended Olympic College, and we all had to, well, I would say out of the 50, probably 45 of us came from Seattle, which meant we had to take a ferry ride 5 days a week that was an hour and a half over to Bremerton. And, you know, we didn't always have finals and all that kind of stuff, exams, so we played cards. You know, we played bid whist, and Gartha and I were good partners. So Gartha's girlfriend at the time was a student at the University of Washington and didn't want to take advantage of this great offer. She didn't want to transfer. So Gartha recommended me to Dean Cogswell, and that's why he contacted me. And when I returned from Iran, which was, like I said, a very interesting journey in itself, I had a conversation with Dean Cogswell, and he was selling me on the, you know, what's the word? All of the opportunities of coming here to Missoula, Montana. So now I knew there was a Montana up here in the Northwest somewhere, but I didn't know about the Missoula part. So I went and looked on the map, and I said, that's right over there, and I kind of think it gets cold in the wintertime there, you know. But anyway, I didn't really care, because I just wanted to take advantage of going to school, because my family did not have the money to send me to college, and I'd always worked. I'd been working since I was 11 years old. And so this was a fantastic opportunity for me to take advantage of. So I came here not knowing anything. I'd never been in a small town like Missoula, Montana. And I'd never really been in a place where the mountains were literally right there. I grew up in Oakland, California, and we had the Oakland and Berkeley Hills, but they were way off there, and white people lived there, and we didn't really go there, you know. Although I grew up in a very integrated area, everywhere I lived and everywhere I went to school, so I didn't know anything about discrimination. And growing up in the same time that all of us, and I'm so happy that we're all about the same age here, because this is one of the few places that I can admit how old I am. So I'm feeling pretty liberated about that right now, you know, because I can't hide, because you know when I was here, you know. So anyway, so to be here was just physically was something just really new to me. That first day, I didn't see any black people on the campus, because I don't know where those 8 black athletes were, but they weren't walking around on the campus, you know. And then, lo and behold, in the distance was this little teeny girl that had darker skin than everybody else, you know, and so it's like slow-mo, you know. Oh my God, there's another black woman here, you know. So hence Esther and I met each other, and it was shortly after that same day that Dean Cogswell called us into his office. So we're sitting there, and he formally introduced us, and I loved that old man. He was like a grandfather to, I know Esther and I, and maybe some of the guys too. But I loved him because he was honest, he was straightforward, and we always knew what was on his mind, you know, and I always appreciate that from anybody. But he told us, he said, okay, you girls, we brought you girls here to help us integrate this university. Okay. So Esther and I are looking at each other, and I'm sitting here, and I see it just as clear in my mind as the day we were sitting there. She was sitting there about 6 feet away, and he's there at the big desk. I don't know if those of you guys have ever been in his office. And cigarettes were just going all over the place. He finished one before he didn't light another one, so you know, we're that. But anyway, so we said, okay. And he said, the way we want you to do that is to live in separate dorms. That's the first step. So once again, Esther and I looked at each other, and we both turned at him and said, no, we're going to be roommates. You know? And you know, he said, okay. So Brantley Hall, that was our room. And it was the most curious experience that I'd ever had in my life. It was like being at the zoo, only you're on the other side of the cage, you know, where you got 99 and 9/10% of the young students here had never, ever seen a black woman, especially. They seen some of the guys, but even those coming in had never seen a black person in the flesh. You know, so they were so curious. We had, and I don't know, maybe Esther and I were in shock, you know, but we allowed these women in that dorm to come into our rooms, because they were always trying to come into our rooms, you know, and they sit down there, and I mean, we were like holding court there, you know, and they want to come up and touch you and rub. Do you have to apply this every day? Does this come off? You know, and the hair, they want to touch the hair. It was incredible, you know, but so that was the beginning of the barrier breaking times, you know, because, you know, when people don't know something, that's when they become afraid, you know, but once they know and they see that, hey, we're just the same kind of people, but we just have different skin and just slightly different backgrounds and so forth. So that was our beginning. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. We completed that first year. It was a little bit rough because I'd never been called the N-word before, but walking across that dadgum bridge going downtown, that happened every single time. I'd never seen trucks with double-rack shotguns in the back window before. And with the tension, you could feel it, you know, not knowing when you did walk across that bridge, if you were going to come back across that bridge, or in what condition you were going to come back across that bridge. And I have to take an aside right here. Herb was so tired of that crap that one day he said that I'm tired of this crap. So he said, I'm going to fix these guys. So Herb purposely went across the bridge, because you could count on being called that word and other as bad words going across that dadgum bridge. So Herb took a brick, the kind that goes into those buildings, those new buildings that you see, a brick, and said, the first person that hollers out one of those windows, car windows passing by, they're going to get bricked. And by golly, that's exactly what happened. And the brick made contact with the windshield. And they kind of slowed it down for a little while, you know. But anyway, so we survived that first year. And then Esther and I decided that we wanted to live off campus, because we kind of wanted to get away from all of that curiosity kind of thing. I know I did anyway. So we went to the papers, and you get all of the listings and so forth, and we started going out and trying to find a place off campus. And it was the most interesting thing that you would see the big signs, you know, rooms for rent or whatever, you know, and they see us coming up the pathway to the door. You see a little white hand come in and just remove the thing. You knock on the door, nobody answered, you know. Or you go to the door, knock on the door, and you could hear the noise, people talking inside, but nobody answered. Or you go knock on the door, and they come, never establishing eye contact, said, already rented, close the door, you know. So I said, wow, nobody, all the rooms in this whole city, nobody would rent to us. It was amazing. I was so naive, I just couldn't believe it, you know. So curiously enough, John Nelson and one of the professors here, Dexter Roberts, I don't know how many of you remember him, and some concerned students and other community people here. I didn't know Judy at that time, but there was quite a few students and other faculty members who didn't like that. They were not from here, but there were a few students who were from here that just thought that was just not the right thing. So they formed what was called Action Seminar. You guys remember that? Okay, I'm the only one? All right, okay, I know Kamani does. But anyway, and what they did was a little survey. So they would send me, Mace, Herb, and Thamani out to rent. Of course, we never got rented to. And they would follow that up with a white student, which they always did. They compiled this information and presented this to President Panzer. That's my recollection of what happened. And through a lot of pressure, and I mean, we were riled up about that. Everybody was getting riled up. There were demonstrations down there in front of the courthouse, and that's when I discovered that Miss Esther Hadley was indeed a militant, but extremely knowledgeable and articulate speaker and person of great thought, you know. And I didn't preface this by saying that prior to my coming here, I was a tall, really, really skinny, very, very shy person that was really quiet, you know. But I discovered Dee Daniels once I got here, and the stuff that I was made of that I had no idea that existed. But anyway, to make a long story short, I think I was in that party of Herb, Mace, and Esther that went to President Panzer. And there was a lot of stuff that happened leading up to that. But anyway, the rest is history. And I have to commend this university, Panzer and Cogswell and all related people, for taking the step that they did take, because they could have put their heads in the sand at that moment, and like a lot of other universities and so forth were doing at that time, but they did not do that. And as a result of that, Professor Doss was hired and so forth, and you heard his story, and we came to be what we were then, and history was made. So as a result, I graduated in June of 1970, and we tried to find this out for sure. And so as far as everybody knows here with the alumni and so forth, that I am the first African-American female graduate of this university. And in 1997, I was asked back and received a Distinguished Alumni Award. And in 2003, I came back again and was inducted into the Fine Arts Hall of Fame. My degree is in art education. When I was here, though, when I did my, what do they call that teacher thing that you do? Student teacher. You see how long ago it's been. Okay, the student teacher thing, there was no student teacher thing. So they didn't have that in. So I was the first art student in education that went out and did a student teaching thing, and that consisted of me going out with the district art teacher that serviced all of the schools here in this Missoula, in the city of Missoula. And it was very interesting. So everything was just so different than what you would expect. But and in the meantime, I started a music career here. Somebody found that I could sing because I used to go out into these little jam sessions. Yeah, well, this was before Monk's Cave. This is how I got to Monk's Cave. Just somebody discovered I could sing. I'll tell the story, thank you. Somebody discovered that I can sing, so I just going out and some students, you know, these are white students that lived off campus and just doing jam sessions. And one day, a member of, it was not Brown Sugar then, but they were an already organized band, came to one of these jam sessions, heard me sing, and invited me to join the band. And once I did, then they changed the name to Brown Sugar. And then I discovered Monk's Cave, and I think so did many of the other black and white students, and that was a whole other era. But little did I know, because I grew up all my life being passionate about art, you know. Little did I know that the seed had been planted for me to become what I am today, and that is a singer, a professional singer, entertainer, performer, and teacher. So that is my recollection of what happened here, and to this very day, I consider my experience here and all of it, and there's so much more, so many stories that I'm sure all of us can tell about our incredible time here on this campus. There was the University of Black Ensemble, the University of Montana Black Ensemble that I created in my senior year, and I mean, that was so much fun. We traveled all over Montana, and I think we went to Seattle and Ellensburg, and that was a lot of fun. But, you know, I still consider my experience here to be one of the highlights of my entire life. And just due to the circumstances of what I do now, I'm interviewed a lot. I've been interviewed all around the world. And, you know, when they say, well, did you study music? And I say, no, I'm an art major. You know, oh, really? You know, where'd you go to school? The University of Montana. Montana? What were you doing there? So I get to tell the story, you know, and I take advantage all the time. So it's very fresh. It will always be fresh in my mind. You know, but I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I'm so grateful for all of the people that I've had an opportunity to share this experience with. I'm so grateful for all of those who have come after us, and for the experience that you have had. And I know, and I can tell because there's still, there is still a BSU here, so something right is happening. It just makes me want to tear up. I'm so grateful for all of the white people that that joined us in the struggle, and that believe in fairness and doing the right thing, and the fact that we really indeed are equal, and that helped us to have such a successful time here. I'm so grateful for Dr. Doss, for all of the contribution you know that he's made to us, because you know listening to him this morning, you know, I was somewhat aware of, you know, just by using my imagination of what he might have been going through, but I had no idea of all of the other stuff that surrounded his being here on this campus that he had to deal with. Us little students had no idea that was going on, you know, and little did he know that, and I'm going to speak for myself on that you provided a model for me, and then I found out we're both Capricorns, you know, so that was extra special to me. So I really, truly appreciate everybody here, and I'm so happy that you're all here, and that you all, I know, have your individual stories, and you've all been successful, and because you have come back here today, that means that it was a good thing. This experience here was good for you as well. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for being here, and for sharing your life, your time, your everything. And I'm gonna do something that Murray might not like me to do, but I really don't care. And that is this Reinhardt Scholarship. Something that I do believe in is giving back. It is one of the foremost things that I believe in doing. I established the D. Daniels Vocal Jazz Scholarship in one of the universities there in Vancouver. I think it was 12 years ago. I believe in mentoring. I believe in supporting. I believe in cheering young people. And I believe in putting my money where my mouth is. And I'm going to, I whispered over and asked Murray, well, how much money would it take to endow the Reinhardt Scholarship? And he told me, can I say how much that is? He said approximately $25,000. You know, well, I ain't got $25,000, okay? But I do have 500. So I'm pledging right now, and all I need to know who to write a check to, $500 towards the endowment of that scholarship. And I encourage any of you, don't clap because it's not, I'm not saying it for that. I believe that it needs to be done. And I also believe that if we don't take a step personally to make a commitment to that or anything else you can do here, if you love this place and you appreciate what it's done for you, it's something that we're supposed to do. You know, lovingly, joyfully, willingly, and happily to do. So I'm just saying out loud, that's what I'm going to do, you know, and I encourage you, without judgment or anything else, to do whatever you feel like you can do, you want to do, and you feel like you need to do, okay? So I'd like to thank you all once again for being here. I've been asked to sing a song, so that's what I'm going to go do now. And just give me a chance to get over there.
Just a few housekeeping things. I have one football ticket if anybody wants it for tomorrow. And I hope the people who are going to the football game will be in their seats by at least 20 to 1 because we're going to have the scholarship recipients introduced before the game. I'd like Teresa Branch to come up here, and I want Dee to come back across the room, please. We have a little presentation, very short.
How is everybody? All right. It's been a wonderful evening, and I'm very thankful that you're here and that you had the opportunity to once again be together and to reflect on the memories of the past. And at this point in time, what we want to do is acknowledge 3 individuals who played a tremendous role in developing the Black Studies program in terms of what it was previously. And one of them, of course, is Dee Daniels. And this is to Dee Daniels in appreciation for your courage and leadership. Black Studies Program 1968 45th Reunion 2013. Next, Maceo Gray. And to you, Maceo, in appreciation for your courage and leadership, Black Studies Program 1968, 45th Reunion 2013. And last but not least, Esther Thimani Akbar. To Esther Thimani Akbar, in appreciation for your courage and leadership, Black Studies Program 1968 45th Reunion 2013. I hope you had a wonderful evening, and thank you all for being here. Till next time, thank you.
I would just like everyone to know that Herb White, who Esther spoke about, was also one of the 4 pioneers back in the day. And I got his award in the mail. I told him if he got it before today, he couldn't tell anybody. So I hope he did get it, but he'll get his in the mail. So just wanted you to know that. Now you can sing.
This is a song that, can everybody hear it? This is a song that is one of my most favorite songs in the whole wide world. I love the sentiment of the song, and I think it is very appropriate to dedicate this song to Esther, to Mace, to her, to Judy, to Junie, to Professor Doss, to Diana, Larry, and a whole bunch of other people, Leela, and all of those, I can say now, young folks that came after us starting the very next year, and to everybody who supported us in various ways and who wanted justice, who wanted fairness, and just the right thing to do, because there were many people, and there were a lot of people that we didn't even know, but the will, the desire was there. So we appreciate I've sung a lot of songs that made some bad rhymes. I've acted out my life on stages with 10,000 people watching. We're alone now, and I'm singing the song to you. I'm singing this song to you. You taught me precious secrets of the truth, withholding nothing. You came out the song to you. We were alone, and I was singing this song to you. We were alone, and I was singing this song to you.
Not bad for an art major. Thank you, Jonathan.